Huh.
Let's do it.
This isn't something I normally do, but I thought I'd give a shot at doing a movie review, so this past week I went to go see Joker with some friends. I would like to discuss my thoughts on it. This probably won't be as in-depth as a lot of movie reviews, I don't think, because I generally like getting to the point of the content I'm reviewing, but who knows. Joker is a film based on the DC comic book villain of the same name, directed by Todd Phillips, most known for directing films like Due Date or the Hangover trilogy. In his first attempt at doing a serious, non-comedic film, heavily inspired by late 70s or early 80s character study movies such as Taxi Driver or The King of Comedy, it stars Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, and follows his descent into madness as he slowly becomes the Joker. The character of Arthur Fleck is presented as a depressed, mentally ill man that suffers from delusions, whom I presume is trying to be rehabilitated in society after a stint at the Arkham State Hospital. When the film opens up, Arthur Fleck is a party clown who wants to aspire to be a comedian, which is a bit of a nod to flashbacks from The Killing Joke, where the Joker started off as a failed comedian before getting his feet wet into the criminal world, which ultimately led him to the accident that made him the famous comic book character we know today. Back to the movie though. We see him promoting a store that's going out of business before having the sign he was using stolen by some street urchins, and in his attempt of trying to get the stolen sign back, he ends up getting the shit beat out of him and is ultimately blamed for stealing the sign later on by his boss. And this starts the slow chain of events, which leads him into his transformation into the titular character. While not wanting to spoil too much, this movie plays with the idea of what in this movie is real and what's a delusion. Some of the delusions in this film are, at some point, revealed fairly obviously to the audience, while there are some others in the film that could be less obvious. I feel like the way the movie handles Arthur Fleck's psyche overall is pretty solid. Given the subject matter of the movie, this movie does at times get a bit intense, and might not necessarily be for the faint of heart. That said, I feel like a lot of critics and personalities in the mainstream media have blown the more graphic and disturbing subject matter out of proportion and ultimately probably got the wrong thing out of the movie. I don't personally see this as a movie that could really cause people to rise up and incite violence as people are fearing for whatever reason. I think it's more of a cautionary tale of just how society overall should be nicer and more courteous to each other, because you might not know who will snap one day from the harshness of life. I feel like this is the most I can say about the film without getting too spoiler heavy, because there's just so much to talk about. So if you want to just get straight to my concluding thoughts on the film, if you haven't seen it yet, jump to the time code posted on the screen. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, so are we good for spoilers? Nice. Here we go. Personally, there's a lot of things I want to talk about this movie that leans more into spoiler territory, and I also kinda want to do unscripted, so where to begin? I feel like Arthur's interactions with the various characters in the film is handled very well, even if they are, like happy-go-lucky or shit. Most of them end up being fairly dark. Like, you have his mom who's like clearly an aging woman who needs his support, and she might not all be there. The film hints towards this before it truly reveals that she is, kind of fucking crazy. There's also the dynamic between Arthur's co-workers and his boss. You have Randall, the taller clown fellow, and then Gary the dwarf clown, I guess. There's a few others, but they're not super particularly elaborated on. Randall seems to like, from the context of the movie, you can tell he kinda likes to fuck with Arthur by doing things like, you know, he gives him a gun in the film. And then at some point he accidentally drops it in a children's hospital and acts like Arthur was trying to buy it from him, which ultimately leads him to get him fired, and this leads to probably the most brutal murder in the film, which I'm not gonna lie, if it wasn't for where I was watching the film, I probably would have busted out laughing, because it's holding like a pair of scissors, because he's not sure he's at the door. Or maybe he entirely suspected it's the door. He goes to answer it. It's Randall and Gary, and after he invites them in, they're all like, oh, sorry about your mother who passing away. He's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm glad she did. Get into that a bit later. And Arthur brings up the fact that Randall ended up getting him fired before stabbing him in the eye and bashing his fucking head into the wall, which presumably is crushing his fucking brain. Gary is horrified, and after a little comedic scene where Gary can't get out, Arthur actually lets him out because Gary's like the one person in the movie who hasn't fucked him over in some way. Back to Arthur's mother, Penny Flack. As I said earlier, it's revealed that she's kind of fucking crazy, and there's delusions she has that she thinks Thomas Wayne is his father. It's revealed that Thomas Wayne probably isn't, but it's also kind of hinted that he might have had an affair with her of some sort, and that could have just been a delusion of Arthur's. Can't really tell because, like I said, not everything is what you think it really is in this movie. Like, you know, you have this girl that Arthur's interested in, and the movie plays with the idea that, oh, she actually might understand Arthur a bit and kinda hit it off with him. It's revealed late into the movie, though, that this never happened, and he goes into her apartment at one point, and she looks at him like, what the fuck, what are you doing here? Aren't you that guy who lives in the room over there? Go back to your fucking room. And it cuts back to his room, which I think it's implied he doesn't really do anything to her, but given the context of the film, you don't really know. He could have done more, who knows, but he could have just sat there for a bit and was like, oh yeah, I guess I should leave. I haven't even started what, you know, actually causes Arthur's initial descent into madness, per se. You know, you have that incident where he's at the children's hospital and has a gun, and he loses his job. He loses his job, he gets on a subway, he sees some 3 higher class people trying to like assault a woman, and he keeps watching, which deters them or whatever. And they hear him laugh, and they're like, well, what's so fucking funny? And he has a little card that he shows people that says, oh, this is just a nervous tick. He can't find it, and they start beating the shit out of him, and in a manner of self-defense, he shoots and kills them. And well, 2 of them you can say self-defense. One of them lives, and they get out of the subway, and before, you know, Arthur finishes shooting them down. And when he did this attack, he's still in his clown makeup, so it inspires people throughout Gotham City to rise up and fight, you know, the higher-ups in society who they think is looking down on them, and start seeing him as a heroic figure. This movie also toys with, you know, the Wayne family a bit, as, you know, you have Thomas Wayne running for mayor, you have Penny Fleck who wants to get support because she thinks Arthur's father is Thomas. You can never tell with this movie. That's what I like about it. It's a very open-ended film. Like, how have I not even touched on Robert De Niro's character yet? Shit, man. There's a lot to talk about. So, we have Robert De Niro's character who's somewhat inspired by the idea from The King of Comedy. He plays Murray Franklin, who is a talk show host that Arthur Fleck is obsessed with. At the beginning of the movie, you see him having a delusion or dream-like thing that he's in the audience of his show, and he's brought up on stage by Murray Franklin, who likes Arthur Fleck's genuine kindness or whatever, and there's a bit where Arthur Fleck tries stand-up, and Murray Franklin presents this on his show, and ends up mocking Arthur Fleck by calling him a joker. Haha, see what they did there? And later on in the movie, towards the end, Arthur ends up getting a call to come on the show and to do a show with Murray, which leads to the climax of the film, where after he kills Randall, he fully embraces the Joker persona, asks before, he goes on stage that Murray presents him as Joker, and he comes off on stage as a very crass person, very different person than the Arthur you see at the beginning of the film, who, despite his problems, tries to inspire happiness into the world, but he got more and more depressed because society just seemed like a giant shit show, and by the end of the film, he's just like, fuck it, I don't care. He comes on the show crass, boldly proclaiming he's the one who killed the people on the subway before killing Murray Franklin himself. This eventually proceeds to the police chasing after him, and there's a little scene where see like the crowd of people that he inspired. They had seen him on TV, and there's one of them who crashed into a cop car. This is something that's presumed to be a delusion, but they, rescue him out of the cop car, and he is seen as a hero for the lower class of society. And it cuts to him in Arkham State Hospital with the social worker you see. He interacts with in the trailers and towards the beginning of the film, who was a bit of a therapist. There's not really much to say about her, but see her talking to him again because I guess she got employed by Arkham State Hospital. And as revealed by Todd Phillips, that the last laugh Arthur has in the movie is the only laugh that's him actually finding something fucking funny. Because, he has a thing, he thinks for a minute, he's like, I just thought of a joke, but I don't think you'd get it. Which then it cuts to him supposedly killing her or something, and walking out of his room with blood covered in his shoes, and being chased by the orderlies in Arkham. You might say they're
big scary orderlies.
And the thing about the movie is this movie could be presented that the whole thing was in his fucking head. There's so many ways you can interpret this movie, and I fucking love it. I wouldn't say it's like, the greatest film of all time, but of all the Jokers that have been on the big screen, I think Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal is my favorite. How this film is portrayed, it's probably not canon to DC's bigger universe as a whole, just, a one-shot, which I'm fine with. I think all the people who was cast in the movie did a great job, especially Joaquin Phoenix and how he portrayed Arthur Fleck. It's just a damn good movie. This movie, the more I think about it, the more I seem to appreciate and enjoy it, and I'm going to be honest, it might be the best movie I've seen all year. I'm still trying to decide if it outdoes my bias towards Godzilla King of the Monsters just because I like kaijus and shit, but it was a very good movie. And yes, I'm saying it's better than Avengers Endgame. Actually, it's probably better than all the movies in the MCU, but let's not go there.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you making any hot takes? All I have are hot takes.
Hey, if you happen to enjoy this video, maybe go like, comment, and subscribe, and go check out some of the videos here, and you might find even more content you may enjoy. And also, you can always support me over at patreon.com at patreon.com/SanelDrag if you want to do that too. It would be appreciated. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.